Namaste and welcome to this edition of The Nation at 5. I'm Anand Narsuman coming to you live from the CNN News18 newsroom. Well, I'm going to tell my tech team right at the top that I'm getting my own voice in my ear and it's quite disturbing. But straight on the broadcast, what's resonating across the world, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that India is the globe's most trusted ally. Prime Minister Narendra Modi not just hard-selling brand India, but this time around standing there and telling the world with confidence, I'm not just coming to make a sales pitch, I'm coming here with the facts. We've got not just the demographic dividend, but we've now got policy in place, we've got infrastructure in place, and we've got mechanics in place, which will make India not just an attractive market to come and sell, but perhaps a destination. When the world is looking at anywhere but China or ABC, well, why don't you make India your destination? Because we are also making it very, very attractive for investors, manufacturers to come here and make India their home to supply not just to this big market, but also to the world. And the best part, this is not an authoritarian regime. This is democracy, a politically stable government. But more importantly, the Indian way is the way of trust. So when you come here, you can trust us to help you, not to try and cheat you or not to try and take you for a right royal ride or use trade agreements or weaponize trade agreements for expansionist designs. Now, that's what the wolf warrior diplomacy, the debt trap policy of the Chinese has had nations on alarm and alert, whether or not they can try test another nation, trust another nation. India standing there at the SCO summit and telling all of Central Asia and this entire region, come do business with us because you can trust us. The trust factor is the biggest one. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been meeting with various leaders. The photo op also saw, one of the photo ops also saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping standing with each other. But earlier, at the top of the day, we saw a very carefully curated positioning with Prime Minister Narendra Modi at one end and the Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif right at the other far end, and in the center between two or three leaders alternating Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. But then there was a moment when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping were standing side to side, but there seemed to be somehow a certain amount of barrier, quiet confidence from both the leaders, but India just standing there tall and saying that we are going to talk business and we're going to engage with those who want to engage with us in the right spirit. There is going to be the bilateral with Vladimir Putin, but we are also given to understand that Prime Minister Narendra Modi did have an engagement and he's also confirmed the bilateral with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. Now that conversation with Turkey is also critical strategically for this region, for vis-a-vis India. Now, the big question is there going to be a bilateral or an engagement with Xi Jinping? Are they keeping it under wraps? And will the leaders confirm this only after the conversation is over? That's the big question. Let's try and go across to Abhishek Jha joining us live from Samarkand. But before that, what Prime Minister Narendra Modi told the world via the SCO.
SCO की भूमिका बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। SCO को हमारे क्षेत्र में विश्वस्त, रेजिलिएंट और डाइवर्सिफाइड सप्लाई चेन्स विकसित करने के लिए प्रयत्न करने चाहिए। इसके लिए बेहतर कनेक्टिविटी की आवश्यकता तो होगी ही, साथ ही यह भी महत्वपूर्ण होगा कि हम सभी एक दूसरे को ट्रांजिट का पूरा अधिकार दें। हम भारत को एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बनाने पर प्रगति कर रहे हैं। इस वर्ष भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था में 7.5% वृद्धि की आशा है, जो विश्व की बड़ी इकोनॉमीज में सबसे अधिक होगी। आज भारत में 70,000 से अधिक स्टार्टअप्स हैं, जिनमें से 100 से अधिक यूनिकॉर्न है। भारत एक नए एससीओ वर्किंग ग्रुप ऑन ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन पर पहल लेगा।
Abhishek Jha now joining us live at this point. Abhishek, let's get to the current moment. When is the engagement with President Vladimir Putin happening, and is there a bilateral with Xi Jinping?
So as per the schedule that was provided to us, the meeting must be underway with President Putin and Prime Minister Modi. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi did, in a surprise move, uh, held a bilateral meeting with his Turkish counterpart, President Erdogan, and that was quite a surprise because this was not scheduled, this was not told by us, but we have seen footages where it was a proper formal talk that both the
Yes.
leaders have held. Prime Minister had a meeting that will be this after this the Putin's meeting. He'll be having a bilateral talk with his Uzbeki counterpart Shaukat Mirziyoyev. That will be followed by one of the major highlights of the day, a meeting with Iranian counterpart President Ibrahim Raisi. What will be the key agenda that these leaders will be discussing? This will be important to wait for because uh, we will get to know about the details, whether those bilateral agreements or bilateral discussion happened on what all topics only after the meeting that takes place around 6 o'clock in the evening.
Well, Abhishek, I'm going to stay with you and quickly understand what was discussed between the two leaders. What are we given to understand was the key matter discussed between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Erdogan? And what is going to be top of the agenda in this current meeting that you're saying is already underway between India and Russia?
So the what transpired in the meeting between President Erdogan and Prime Minister Modi has not been revealed in a very detailed manner. But we do know that Prime Minister himself had tweeted that uh, they held a meeting where the bilateral relations and the deepening of his the bilateral ties were discussed. We know that President Erdogan had visited India in 2017, where he had met Prime Minister Modi also, and India and Turkey have been trading with each other at a very uh, good growth rate. The growth rate of bilateral trade is somewhere around 13% to 14%, and about $7 billion worth of trade is happening between the two countries. They both
Right.
are trying to take this further upward at a very high pace. Turkey can provide India with a lot of high tech, high end technology in space, construction, naval ship manufacturing, electronic equipment. While India is supplying with a lot of agricultural in commodities to Turkey, so going by the needs of each other, both can become a very good partner. Talking about India and Russia bilateral ties, we have seen how India has tried to create a balance and not got bullied by the Western bloc influence against Russia in the context of Russia-Ukraine war. And for that, India said there has been a long-term strategic and long-standing strategic relationship
Right.
with Russia, and that also needs to be
See,
respected, and that also needs to be put in context when we try to define redefine the relationship with any country in the context of the latest development that is happening in Russia and Ukraine. So that was one context, and we've also seen that in the recent weeks, India has started importing a lot of
crude
fuel
oil.
from Russia, natural gas. So what will be the takeaways in that meeting? We'll have to wait for that also.
Right. Abhishek, just stay on with us. We got lots of developments coming through, but Swasti Rao is with us. Swasti Rao, let's talk Turkey first. One of the key concerns for India is Turkish agenda vis-a-vis India. Business trade on the one hand, but there is also Turkish involvement in trying to spin narratives and stories. So there is a concern there. There is also the presence of operatives. Yes, the Turkish authorities seem to have cracked down on Al-Qaeda and IS operatives, Daesh operatives on Turkish soil, but they are all operating from there. A lot of the social media propaganda against India is emerging from Turkey. A lot of the funding to radical elements who are present on Indian soil is emerging from Turkey. So can India actually engage with Turkey when we know that Turkey, China, Pakistan are actually the axis against India?
Well, right. Good evening, Anand. And yeah, I'm glad you took this up because I think a large part of what we've been discussing about the SCO has only been repetitions of what we've been seeing there, etc. And I'm glad this particular point has come up. You see, in a very clear expression of what I feel about the India-Turkey relations, you see, India, plain and simple, needs to engage Turkey, despite knowing the limitations, is because the kind of an brotherly equation that Turkey has been showing on Pakistan and Pakistan has been showing to Turkey, right? So this India's outreach to Turkey has several. See, Turkey considers India a friend, but Turkey considers Pakistan a brother. So that's clearly there is an Islamic agenda there. There's little that we can do. We are in no mood. I don't think the current dispensation is under any mood to go in for such, meaningless appeasement. So I don't think that is on the cards. But what is on the cards is that if you are willing to put forward one constructive step, we are willing to put forward or we are willing to reciprocate it with two forward steps. Right, so that is perhaps what we are trying to do with Turkey, is that we are trying to engage Turkey. This, let's see, even in terms of, Turkey has a policy of supplying weapons to Asia, and especially South Asia. And you'll be surprised to know that most of the weapons are going to Pakistan. Their Hisar missiles are going to Bangladesh. So Turkey is also picking up, Islamic countries within South Asia to supply its weapons. I mean, India does not really have that, so to say, that priority in Turkey's designs. But having said that, what makes sense definitely is to engage Turkey and see if they are willing to sort of, it takes two to tango. If they're willing to come forward, we should be trying to, reciprocate as well. But limitations notwithstanding, I mean, I'm not very hopeful of that. Yeah.
But in this case, can India walk that path with Turkey, because the India-Turkey engagement, tourism-wise, etc., is very strong. But despite the concerns, the security aspect, the fact that within the OIC also it's the Turkish bloc or the Erdogan-led bloc that is trying to wrest control or seize control from the more amiable, friendly Saudi grouping, is that also not a concern, Swasti Rao? So how does
Well,
India
yes.
negotiate that? I'll come to Russia in just a bit, but Turkey, China, Pakistan axis is critical.
Well, yes, definitely. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. That, the thing is that if you look at Turkey, China, Pakistan axis, the least, so to say, the least problems that we have with any country is Turkey, right? So even
Yeah.
looking at it commonsensically, it makes all the more sense. See, we are trying to deepen our ties with UAE. There's been a historic I2U2. So India's approach towards the West Asian region as well has been undergoing a radical shift from, earlier times. Okay, so I mean, it is focusing much more on national interest and much more on how the current geopolitics is turning out. So I think similarly in Turkey, like you rightly said, that if you look at the Turkey, China, Pakistan, Iran, so to say, that kind of a axis, obviously there are two clear-cut powers that we try to engage much more constructively than the other two. One definitely
Right.
is Iran, and Iran we've been talking about so much, and one of the reasons
Right.
why India is at SCO today is to engage Iran. We want to make Chabahar a part of the INSTC as well. And the second is Turkey. Like I said, that we need to engage Turkey for containing as much as possible, our arch rival and the pain in the neck, which is Pakistan, and all the terror
Right.
activities coming from there. Trying, and also, and let me also tell you, Anand, about another thing that is usually not really, talked about, which is that if you even look at the Turkish stand in the Russia-Ukraine crisis, okay, it has
Right.
been pretty much that of a balancer. Okay, so similarly,
Correct.
like India, so I think that is also one area on which, like for example, Turkey says that we are a NATO member, but we have good relations with both Russia and Ukraine. Especially with Ukraine, they've had, they've been supplying, a lot of weapons. So they have also been treading a very, very fine balance between NATO and Russia and Ukraine and all of that. So that is also one thing that kind of India understands. So in terms of that ethos of what it means to be a balancer in
Right.
global, conflicts, I guess there is much that India and Turkey can share. Also, remember, Turkey did play an important role in ensuring the food corridors. Okay, they recently made the food corridors from the Black Sea to the rest of the world, especially West Asia
Yes.
and Africa. So those kind of things, and India also looks upon itself as a major global player, which can mediate, which believes in diplomatic engagement. So I guess that is a pitch that India should try and, so to say, reiterate with Turkey, and that will sort of
Right.
engage Turkey in a constructive manner. But otherwise, as far as the Islamist agendas and all other things, and Erdogan claiming himself to be the leader of the Muslim world, etc., we can just leave them, with it. There's very little we can do about that, actually. Yeah.
Right, right. Swasti Rao, stay on with us. We've got a development. We're talking about the Turkey-Pak-China axis. There's some development as far as Pakistan is concerned. We'll go to Abhishek Jha with this. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has actually held a bilateral with the China's Premier or Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the SCO summit. He's highlighted the human rights situation in Jammu and Kashmir and thanked China for its principled stand on Jammu and Kashmir. The two leaders reaffirming their resolve to build Pakistan-China community for a shared future. Abhishek Jha with us. So Abhishek, even at the SCO, Shehbaz Sharif has got nothing but to talk about Jammu and Kashmir, about sovereign Indian territory. Is there no story that Pakistan has? And this Pak-China community for a shared future, has Pakistan literally given up and said, we are your vassal state?
Okay, so it's an ironic that, for 1 second, if we say that Shahbaz Sharif has some merit, in raising the issue of Kashmir with the Chinese president, there was a deafening silence about the Xinjiang atrocities committed against Muslims and Uyghur minorities. And this is not the first time that Pakistan has tried to ignore that aspect of Pakistan-China relationship. There has been precedents also. In fact, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, was asked the same question, and he did express an ignorance about this whole issue, whether it even existed at that time, of all the Xinjiang province and the Uyghur Muslims and the atrocities committed against them by the Chinese authorities. So in that context, we know that there are dependability of Pakistan on China, and Pakistan has to, for its own concerns, ignore certain aspects and raise these issues like Kashmir again and again to more vote bank politics in Pakistan. So that's the
Yeah, I'm very
political.
curious. I'm very curious. How did other nations look at Pakistan? How was Shahbaz Sharif largely being marginalized, sidelined, no importance? The comparison, if you were to see, and the equations, did Pakistan have a lot of other bilaterals too? Or was the engagement more with India? Because one of the things Pakistan has always tried to do is equate itself with India. And what India has shown to the world is that, our focus and our positioning is vis-a-vis China and America now. That's what we are aspiring to be. So Pakistan largely has not been part of the discourse. See, Abhishek, one of the narratives for Pakistan which worked was that it was able to show itself as an equal to India, despite being not even, less than 1/5 the size, and also in terms of population and also everything else. But that was what the narrative that worked for them in the 90s and early 2000s. Now, over the last decade, they seem to be absolutely marginalized, and they are a far lesser player. And India is the big brother in the region. Was that evident at SCO?
Of course, there is no comparison if you talk about Pakistan and India vis-a-vis. Probably Pakistan can compare with this former part, Bangladesh, in a very legitimate way and very credible way, where the Bangladesh has shown how the prosperity can be done and the radicalism can also be taken out from the society. Talking not about that in detail, today, while Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif was addressing SCO summit, most of his time was emphasized on how Pakistan is dealing with this ravaging flood. And he was almost describing the situation in Pakistan. So we know that Pakistan economy is almost broken down. It is getting help and assistance and aids from IMF, World Bank, and other peer groups also, but that is not going to suffice the long-term solution that Pakistan's economy is going to face. Apart from the current crisis of flood, that Pakistan is also getting some support from the world bodies. Pakistan is trying to spread across the world to get more investment in Pakistan, more collaboration in Pakistan, so that the economic condition of Pakistan can be revived. That is the first priority of Shahbaz Sharif. We have seen that yesterday he has held back-to-back more than 7 meetings with many of his counterparts, including Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, where President assured Shahbaz Sharif that Russia is ready to supply as much LNG as much Pakistan needs. Pakistan is also facing a high fuel crisis where the prices are high and the demands are also high, and there is a scarcity of fuel in that country. So while at SCO, Shahbaz Sharif was mostly trying to achieve the solution of the problems that he's facing domestically.
So, but where is Pakistan going to be able to fund this or pay for this? Russia can make a lot of promises, but it's also has to come by a hard cash. But it's very interesting if we see the dynamics, Swasti Rao, and I'm hoping that Ambassador Parthasarthi is also with us on the phone line. We have Ambassador G. Parthasarthi with us on the phone line. Ambassador Parthasarthi, how would you read the developments at the SCO so far? The India-Russia bilaterals are happening right now. But so far, how has India been projected by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and how has India been seen and received by the other leaders? The bilateral with Recep Erdogan has also happened. Shahbaz Sharif is trying to make his angle, and the Modi, the Xi Jinping, Shahbaz Sharif bilateral. Again, it is the Kashmir story and the Kashmir pitch that they have tried to highlight. How would you read this? Is the world trusting India? Are we perhaps the most trustworthy nation in this region?
Look, I think sometimes our media goes berserk. For example, they're making this fuss about Mr. Modi standing at the one end of the lineup when they are photographed. That is determined by when you joined. It depends your seniority. That depends on when you joined. And everyone else joined before us in Pakistan. And hence, it's not an insult to India. And it is not an insult to the Prime Minister of India. And yet the media and, political people start going berserk. This is point number one. Point number two, I have my own things to go by. In the case of Pakistan, I know Shehbaz Sharif. He would have been very happy to meet him, meet our Prime Minister, but his hands have been tied by the military and by the opposition. That if he did meet Prime Minister, why did he do so? So Shehbaz is in a very delicate position. Again, you should not view these things from an entirely Indian context without studying the diplomatic implications and the problems of the man who other leaders who are attending there. Finally, with regard to China, I am very clear in my mind that in a way Xi Jinping is repeating Chinese behavior. In what we have agreed to recently, yes, there has been a mutual pullback, but yet there are still positions which the Chinese hold. But let's not forget that those areas are pretty close to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and strategic areas. They'll have to think 10 times before they pull out. I'm not justifying what they're doing, but this is the reality. And I also want to tell you what I negotiated with when I was working with Rajiv Gandhi. When we went, we expected that they would withdraw totally from Sundarangchu. It took them 6 years to withdraw. So on the border, movement will be incremental. But the important thing is that you've got them out of a major point in Depsang, where they were occupied. People must realize that in diplomacy, and multilateral diplomacy, where several countries are involved, this is what happens. And I don't think Xi Jinping was prepared for further movement. And I think both sides agreed that, as we have in the past, that there would be no meeting.
There will be
What's
no
the point
meeting.
of...
But the meeting with Turkey, that was a surprise. It was not planned, but the bilateral happened with Tayyip Erdogan. So how would you see Turkey? Because this Turkey-China-Pakistan axis is the one which is strategically moving against India. And like Swasti Rao here with us was saying that Turkey considers Pakistan its brother and India a friend. So there is a difference in the equation there.
Look,
and we've seen the recent social media vitriol and strife and all of that. There is a lot of Turkish connection there.
No, but the fact of the matter is, let us be real. The last time we had a visit was, again, in close contacts with Turkey, was in the 1980s. And when the Indian Prime Minister also visited Turkey, and things improved. But Turkey traditionally regards Pakistan as its sphere of influence. India is not. India cannot be its sphere of influence. India is independent. And it therefore, to keep its position in the Islamic world, it supports Pakistan and also makes a fair amount of money in defense deals and so on. So Turkey is, and at a certain stage, we have been ignoring them, they have been avoiding us. So if the leaders meet, let's wait and see what comes from it. But let's not prejudge the issue.
Right. Sir, final question. I'm over time, but final question. This one-on-one with Russia, what do you think will be the key aspect? We are buying crude, we are continuing to do certain aspects of trade. But do you think it is far more military and strategically? Because will Russia have concerns about our proximity with America? Will India be worried that America is going to once again upgrade and give them the update, F-16 update to Pakistan, and it's once again cozying up to Pakistan, America? How would you see this bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin?
Well, I look at it this way. Look, I'm an old Russia hand. I started my career there. And the Russians have an intrinsic sort of good feelings for India and Indians. This goes back to Raj Kapoor and films, but anyway, that's the reality. But the important factor is whether one likes it or not, Zaka. Our defense production is from them, and right now, they have never done us any harm or worked against us. They backed us to the hilt in the Bangladesh conflict. Even in '62 with China, they kept out of it. And in the case of Bangladesh, they actually they deployed 5 divisions on the China border to tell them to lay off. So the Russians are long-term friends for keeps. Yes, they are in trouble, but they are a country with such vast resources that it does not make sense for us to go along lecturing to them. They will fight their battles. They will fight and win or lose. But we retain. We are now a power which retains a very good relationship with 4 of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. So I think in terms of diplomacy, we are doing fine. But yes, in frankly, after having dealt with and lived there, I was rather surprised by the performance of their armed forces. But let's wait and see. Things are just getting started. Yes.
Right. Ambassador Parthasarathy, Swasti Rao and Abhishek Jha, thank you for your inputs. Thank you for your time. We're going to take a very short break here on The Nation at 5. Stay with us.